Hey there, your wallet's looking a bit heavy. Let us help lighten the load by giving you some Kickstarter Pickstarters for the week of September 9th, 2019. If you're a fan of minis and you tend to go to Kickstarter to find some maybe new, interesting ones, you may recognize the title Aeon Trespass. This has actually been multiple previous projects of just miniatures, did a lot of different designs, heavily based on Greek lore. Apparently the creators have decided, you know what? What if we put these into a board game? So they have now released Aeon Trespass Odyssey. This is a board game that uses at least some of the minis I've recognized from their previous projects into a whole new style that actually uses them into mechanics, not just for minis. The story of the game is that the ancient Greek gods were hubris, and through their pride, they accidentally summoned these ancient evil creatures which killed them all off in minutes. And now, years later, it's up to you on the Argonaut in order to defeat these ancient beings with the only thing that can hurt them: Titans. This game comes with a bunch of miniatures, including Titans and these evil creatures that are actually modular, so you can either add platforms to them or different equipment, maybe even change their modes. There's apparently, like, you can summon the ancient powers of the old gods, like there's a Zeus mode. I think they make some Super Saiyan jokes there. And you actually travel around a board similar, it reminded me of Seventh Continent style, in which there's tiles, but they can lead into combat or story beats, in which you have multiple different trackers of fate for luck or like rage. So taking damage isn't really health as much as drawing from different decks. The more, I forget the exact term you draw from a deck that could have more death cards in them, or they have a card called Fate Worse Than Death, which sounds very scary. But this just sounds like, if you're into those heavy, first of all, if you're into miniatures, the fact that you get a game with this is awesome. But the storytelling aspect of exploring around ancient Greece with the gods actually being dead, not just you trying to gain their favor, I think is an interesting enough twist to throw in there. The other thing I found interesting I don't think I've seen another campaign game do. This game goes for about $130, but they actually have a pledge level for about half of that, where they call it like the introductory set. So you get, like, I think it was 7 or 8 miniatures and sort of an introductory story. So it's like you could spend a little bit less to go, just see what it's like if it's work for you. I mean, it's still,
that's nice,
$70-ish.
Yeah, but
I think that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, when you know that your game is really big and expensive.
Yeah, I think they said 200 hours.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include, of course, they already have like not exclusives, add-ons, expansions.
Yeah. It's nice to not have to, take out a bank loan to back something on Kickstarter sometimes.
Hey, we said lighten the load of your wallet.
That's what we said. Well, you said it. I'm not a part of this.
The other thing, if you are big in the minis, check out the comment section. I mean, this is already fun, and there's a lot of talk there about, like, do they come pre-assembled or kind of stuff. I don't know as much about this because I'm just like, I'm getting my game with minis. So you may want to check that out and see what they're talking about there. Like I said, the game goes for $130 for the base. That doesn't include shipping, I believe, so check out your region. But this is Aeon Trespass Odyssey.
The Isafarian Guard is another campaign story-based game from Sky Kingdom Games. This one is for 1 to 2 players. Essentially, you are exploring this town, city, region of Isafar. You have a big old map that you're going across, and every time that you enter a new region, there's going to be a piece of story that you read. You're going to be making decisions, deciding where to go. At times, of course, inevitably, you'll be encountering enemies. The way the core gameplay of the game works is through a bag building mechanic. You're going to have discs in a bag. Some of them will be for attack, some will be for defense, and you'll be drawing them out, and you'll need those to pay for certain weapons or items or to fight enemies. And enemies may also put bad discs into your bag, so you might draw those, and those are bad, and you'll want to try to get rid of them or avoid them if possible. And they're also going to include, it's going to work with an app. I forget the name of the system, but it's a storytelling thing that will have a narration so that all the story sections are read to you, and you can also make choices digitally within that, save your games, etc. That's an optional part of the experience. It seemed like a cool game. I liked the way that it uses a full campaign. I think they said 30 plus hours, something akin to the kind of experience that you might get from something like a Gloomhaven or that style of game, but without the heavy miniatures and tactics. It's mostly just card-based and, like I said, bag-based. And it's something that might be good if you're a solo player, or if you just have one other person that you want to play a game with, then this may be a good way to get kind of that heavy story experience without as much of the headache that some of those other games give you in terms of setup and things like that. I don't know how good the story will be. That's one thing that remains to be seen. They do have some samples on the page, as well as samples of the audio readings that actually sounded pretty good, and they have a lot of music that goes along with it too, custom music designed just for the game. Some very cool, interesting looking stuff if you like that kind of a thing. This is another big story campaign game, so hopefully you have time for all this kind of stuff.
I have a feeling this entire Kickstarter Pixar video is going to really focus on story in some way.
How'd you get that feeling? Is it 'cause
I don't know. It's almost as if I already know what some of the other picks are.
We don't do this. We don't write anything out. We just, like this one, randomly pick it as we film. So this one is for $79, so kind of cheaper than the last one, but still very expensive, probably. Also not as many minis, I don't think. But take a look if this sounds like your thing. It's called the Icefarian Guard.
Cave of Monster Games brings us Henshin. This is actually an RPG book based on the Super Sentai or Power Rangers series, that whole colorful hero aspect. In it, you play as, well, kids who turn into heroes. The mechanics are actually designed so it's not really dice-based, it's more about telling a story. In their example video, they mention some things like someone does an ice cream monster named King Cone.
Good.
An ice cream monster, and like someone says like, it's time for you to chill out. So, get those nice cheesy aspects in there. They've actually had this game out for a while. I think this is for the nice heart book version. They've been to the Ranger convention, and they also mentioned plenty of the other Sentai similar series, like Big Bag Beetleborg's a favorite of mine, or I think Kamen Rider was also mentioned. So they definitely know their stuff, which is very happy. And
yeah, it seems like it would be fun to design your own hero and decide what their skills are and stuff like that. Hope maybe you get robots. I don't know.
I don't recall robots, but it does seem to also put more focus on also their life outside of the Ranger side.
Sure.
Which I think is interesting, and because also I think all of them are teenagers,
yeah.
And we all know that's definitely a turbulent time.
Got to go to prom. You got to figure out how that
God,
kind of stuff.
I don't want to do that one. Can we skip that chapter?
That's a tough one.
But this is an RPG. It has a digital version, physical. Digital for $15, and you can get the physical book for $25.
Next up is another RPG, a little bit off the beaten path of most role-playing games. It's called Rod, Reel, and Fist, and it is a fishing RPG. In the game, players play as members of a village, a fishing village, and some kind of horrible calamity has befallen your town. You get to decide when the game starts collectively as a group. You figure out what's happening to your town, and you figure out what do you need to stop it. I believe in most, if not all cases, the answer is a legendary kind of fish. And the DM in this case, or GM, is a swamp being. And they take on this role of this mystical swamp monster that is guiding everybody. They're on their side, it's not adversarial. And they, like any GM, they also take on the role of any kind of animals, fish, other NPCs that they encounter. It's based on a system of D6s that you'll be rolling to figure stuff out. You can get exhausted if you do too much and you have to rest, etc. But I just thought the idea of fishing in a role-playing game, which I'm sure has been explored in RPGs before, but to have it as the core mechanic, I think sounds really interesting, really novel. And I think, hopefully if it's done well, if the fishing part of the game is sort of like the combat part of most RPGs, I think that could be really funny and interesting to see how that works out.
Look, I'm going to need, if we ever play this, I'm going to need you to have puns for all of them, like in Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I'll work on that. I think maybe you get a bonus. You have to roll to see how good your pun is. So this one is for $10. Right now it is only being offered as a PDF, but I think depending on what happens, they've said they might be doing a physical version if enough people want it. So go ahead and look at that. It's called Rod, Reel, and Fist.
Sandy Peterson is always excited to bring more dark truths from Lovecraft lore, and that is no exception in his newest RPG book, Ghoul Island. If you haven't been keeping up with his stuff, he actually released a book for both Pathfinder and for D&D of Cthulhu Mythos, which included not only creatures, which he actually won a award at Gen Con for Best Monsters and Bestiary, but also spells and new abilities for all classes but Rangers. I'm not salty about that. Ghoul Island, though, is going to be an adventure set, and this is the first book where you and your party are stranded on an island full of ghouls. You'll discover what horrors lie there, why not only are the ghouls there, but also the deep ones seem to be showing up as well. And this is for the first book, but for $15 to $25, depending on physical versus digital. But as of this recording, if you back it when it ends, they actually have a bunch ready to go, so you can get this a lot quicker. They also actually have extra you can add on later. I believe it's $59 because this is going to be a whole series of books. I think 3 more. So it's a nice little set. And it'll take your character from 1 all the way to 14. So this is, I think, a fun little way if you want to do a really D&D set that is set in Lovecraft. Peterson has made, I think they show like at least 20 different RPG books he's made. So he's not new to the RPG scene. He's worked on them. So I think this should be a finely crafted Lovecraftian horror story.
Yeah, I haven't experienced any of his other RPG stuff, just the lore in his other games. So I'm definitely curious to see what his written out adventure stories are like. Also, this sounds like a place that Scooby-Doo would go. Like if you have a Scooby-Doo campaign, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think it will be as lighthearted as it. I watched his how to do horror videos.
In Zombie Island, they were real, so it's not beyond the realm of possibility.
But the one other thing that's great about this too is because I have Cthulhu Wars, I have minis for it.
yeah, there you go, built right in.
Like we said, for the initial book, 15 to 25, depending on digital or physical. But also, check out if you do want to just get the whole series of the entire adventure, you can get that as well.
If following the story of one of these RPGs isn't enough for you, here's a Kickstarter project that will let you create your own. It's called the Story Engine. It is a deck of cards. Each card has a different prompt on it, and it has 4 sides. And the way it works is you'll be drawing a bunch of those cards in order. For instance, it'll have like a person and they want to do something with something else, and then there's an extra thing, and then you can add modifiers to them. And each card has one thing on each of its 4 sides, so you can rotate it to kind of fine-tune it to how you like it. So it might say, for example, like the artist wants to protect an artifact or something like that. Maybe artifact can be changed to a location or something else along those lines, and you can see what you think about it. The idea of this is for RPGs, so if you're a GM, you could use this to come up with prompts for side quests or storylines or what have you, but also just in general, they're gearing it towards writers of any kind. If you want to write any kind of a story or anything, seems like a fun way to come up with a prompt for it, and you can interpret the cards, as literally or figuratively as you want, and embellish and add your own stuff to it. But if you're having writer's block or anything like that, seems like possibly a good option for you. It seemed like fun. It goes for $24 for the deck of cards, but they have other stuff too. There's a book of short stories, I think, based from the cards. There's digital and physical versions for everything, so you can look and see what you think about it all. But if you're, stuck writing a story, or you just want to play around and have some fun improvised storytelling stuff, maybe take a look at this one. It seemed kind of neat to me.
I mean, I'm definitely curious hearing from you. Like I said, you're currently our DM, so you have a bit more experience, and I have had my own horrible trouble, so I'm like, I could have been pretty good sometimes.
Yeah. It's nice to have these little helps.
I'm not good at writing stories. I need a little help.
It's hard. Check it out. It's called the Story Engine.
Thanks for joining us on this Kickstarter. If you've already subscribed, first of all, thank you. Second of all, we apologize for the whole grouping of videos that released all at once yesterday. We get a bunch of games for preview for Kickstarter, and this is the one time they all seem to decide to release on the same day. But you should still check them out. We have Philosophia, which is a game about philosophers in ancient Greece, if you can guess from the name. But we also have Clash of Ardennes, which is a game about the Battle of the Bulge during World War II. And it's sort of a two-player head-to-head match of like moving down and trying to control these roads.
And we also did a full review for the game Dawning the Purple, which has an expansion that's on Kickstarter right now, as well as a new print run of the original game, so you should check that one out. There was no shortage of things on Kickstarter this week. There was also, I saw that District 9 got relaunched, and they have changed some stuff, so maybe if you didn't like it the first time around or did like it, but they took it down, you could look at that. We also saw that Hyper Light Drifter RPG based on the video game. That seems interesting. I want to say as a personal plea, take a look if you haven't at the Evil Dead 2 Kickstarter we mentioned a few weeks back, because it might not get funded, and I'm interested in it. And they have said, Jasco and Linvander, that if it gets funded, they also got the rights to the abandoned Space Goat Terminator game. So they will do that.
Oh right,
next.
I forgot they had that too.
Yeah, so they really want to like get through all these things, and they're doing a nice thing. They want to give copies to the original backers. So if that interests you at all, I would encourage you to pledge. We'll see if they make it or not. I don't know. It's close right now. So that was it. Let us know in the comments, which of these things are you looking at? What are you backing? There's a lot to talk about and more coming up in the next couple of weeks as well. Let us know down in the section below. You can also find us on social media, Instagram, check out our website, all that stuff in that description. We like
But
it.
until the next chapter, I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
And this was Roll for Crit.
Never miss out by liking and subscribing, and you can also check out more on our Patreon.
We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and Twitch, so follow us there.